Denver is one big traffic jam tonight, while the president is stuck on an issue where Coloradans left and right want him to be careful. A high school coach takes a suspicious drive right before a drug search.
We're not used to that, so it did bring our suspicion up a little bit.
The search for a thief in the high country leads to an unlikely suspect. Would not suspect that squirrels would take Ubers, but if it was going to happen anywhere, you'd know it'd be Boulder. And if it was going to happen here, then Denver figured, why not just make it a dog park?
And we are so delighted to have this space for our dogs.
All that next. If you are watching next, you are likely at home, and if you're considering going anywhere in Denver on this beautiful Friday night, might I suggest don't. If you're thinking about driving near Mile High during the Rocky Mountain Showdown, don't. If you're considering a night out in Lodo as the Rockies and Diamondbacks game lets out, don't. And the Taste of Colorado has downtown tasting mostly like traffic. So if you're wondering if you should head there tonight, in a word, don't. But if you do, you can't say your friends at Next didn't warn you about the traffic. To the news now. A congressman, who also happens to be running for governor, says President Trump is terrorizing people. Consider that choice of language by Democrat Jared Polis of Boulder. He's talking about the president's drawn-out decision-making on DACA, the program that allows young people brought here illegally as children to stay, live, and work without fear of deportation.
He's really just terrorizing young people who grew up here and don't know any other country. What we're talking about is people that might be 25, 30 today who have only been in America since they're 2 or 3. Many of them don't even speak another language.
A who's who of Democratic politicians gathered with a few of the 17,000 so-called dreamers from Colorado who could be deported if the president ends DACA. The president's decision, initially expected to come as early as today, is now thought to be coming sometime between now and Tuesday. Do not be fooled, though, into thinking that this is a traditionally partisan debate over DACA. There are powerful Republicans in Congress asking the president to preserve the program. Congressman Mike Kaufman of Aurora is trying to force a vote in Congress to protect DACA. He is asking the president to do something that he himself has done, change his mind about DACA.
I think the president is sympathetic to the program, and he said it. He said so. But he's also acknowledged, as I've acknowledged, that the program has a constitutional problem and that it should not have been done through an executive order. The president could have rescinded this program at any time, because it's done by executive order and it's not in law. And the president chose not to. The president, I don't think, has a choice now. The question is, does he say in his announcement that the DACA program should continue and he would sign legislation if passed by the Congress? And that's what I hope he does.
And we found additional bipartisan agreement on this when I sat down with the Speaker of the Colorado House, Democrat Crisanta Duran of Denver, and Hugo Chavez Ray, chairman of the Colorado Hispanic Republicans.
There are kids in this country that have been part of American society from the time that they were very, very young, and it is important that they have the opportunity to continue to be here. That said, we need comprehensive immigration reform. Not only should we protect DACA, but we need to go beyond that, and I think we are at a pivotal time to bring people together to be able to make sure that that actually happens.
You're seeing a lot of Republicans who are urging the president to go slow. And Hugo, I know you're not a fan of the idea of mass deportations, which the president talked about during the campaign and backed off of.
Correct. We understand mass deportations is not a viable solution. It would be economically devastating. We need to focus on, as Crisanta said, immigration reform to find some workable solutions for those that are here, normalization, but also focus on finding and deporting the criminals. And I think we can all agree on that part.
In our full conversation, which you can find on the Next YouTube channel, we discussed Denver's decision this week to provide sanctuary to people in this country illegally, up to and including a legal defense fund, which could use taxpayer dollars. Our next question flooded in on social media this week with word that Denver is defying the federal government on immigration and losing some funding in the process. Kirk Brooks put it simply, is this actually legal? All right, Kirk, so let's take your question in two parts here. Is it legal for Denver to refuse voluntary cooperation with federal immigration officials? Yes. You can agree or disagree with the city's approach, but state and local workers under the law don't have to enforce immigration rules. Part 2. Is it legal for the feds to withhold some funding in retaliation for that? Now, Denver's going to fight this in court, but the answer historically, yes, it's been legal. In the 1980s, the feds withheld 5% of states' transportation funding if they refused to raise the drinking age to 21. The Supreme Court ruled that the funding has to be tied to the issue at hand, and it can't be so much money that it's considered coercive. Seemed odd, the Highlands Ranch High School football coach resigning the day before the first game. Even odder, though, his decision to drive a player's car away from school property just before a scheduled drug dog sweep. The dogs and our Marshall Zellinger have been sniffing around.
The parking lot at Highlands Ranch High School is where drug-sniffing dogs showed up last week, as Dean, head football coach Mark Robinson got a text message 30 minutes before the sweep.
Part of his duties was overseeing our security team, and he knew that we had arranged for a canine sniff to be taking place over at the high school.
Sergeant Lori Bronner oversees school resource officers in Douglas County. She got involved when she found out what the coach did next. According to this police report obtained by 9 Wants to Know, the coach was seen driving one of his players' cars off campus. Robinson said he was just leaving to put gas in the student-athlete's car real fast, but he came back without the car. Is there anything bizarre about that?
We're not used to that, so it did bring our suspicion up a little bit.
Where'd the car go? Here, behind the school, to the coach's home. By the way, he wasn't home when I rang the bell this afternoon.
I was contacted via phone, and I said send the dog over and do a sniff around the vehicle. The dog did a sniff outside the vehicle and did alert. So it could be anything from marijuana, which is legal depending on your age, to substances that are drugs that are not legal for anybody, like meth or heroin, stuff like that.
So they tracked down the student, a player on the football team. Here's what he told deputies. He left his car at his house today. He said he could not remember which street he lived on. When asked for permission to search the car, he said he does not have anything in his car, but he just does not like cops like that and did not want anyone to search. And since we're all thinking it, I asked, is this what it looks like?
I don't know that. I mean, a person could assume that or think that, but I have no evidence to prove that that's what occurred.
Was anything found or anyone charged?
We're unable to prove that any crime occurred that day.
So the day of the first football game, which, by the way, Highlands Ranch won 53-7, the coach sent out this resignation letter to parents. This past year, I've gone through a lot of things and have noticed that I was slipping in my duties as the head coach. I wonder if this is one of the things he was perhaps slipping on, at least. There's no real answer. And again, no proof a crime occurred.
Sure.
Because we never saw inside the vehicle.
Sure.
A lot of big question marks show up everywhere and high eyebrows.
Yeah, exactly. One of those situations. Curious. All right, Marshall, thank you. 1 week since Hurricane Harvey made landfall, we stepped back to look at some of the most impactful images since. Parents in the foothills wanted to know who stole their kids' stuff. Turns out the thief can't read. And Denver decides if people and pets can't follow the rules, maybe the rules should change. Next. It's a sign, a wanted poster of sorts for a thief up in Morrison. Someone stole my kid's pitching batting net from the backyard, it says. Not cool. Well, it would appear the party responsible for the theft cannot read the sign shaming it. Several of you have shared photos of an elk roaming the foothills near Morrison and Conifer with what appears to be a kid's pitching and batting net stuck in its antlers. Colorado Parks and Wildlife told us they don't think this elk's life is in danger. It can still see and eat and move around. They told us, well, it'll just shed the batting and pitching net when it sheds its antlers for the season. Perhaps the family will search the woods and go and retrieve their property. The most Colorado thing we saw today needs an asterisk because it's kind of just the most Boulder thing we saw today. Somebody ordered up an Uber to take a baby squirrel to a wildlife rehab center. The squirrel was orphaned, did not have a mom, but it did have an Uber driver named Chris Byrne, who took it From the Uber customer's place to the Wildlife Rehab Center, the Greenwood Rehab Center. They tell us the squirrel should be just fine. A few fleas, but it was riding in style.
Nuts. I'm meteorologist Kathy Sabin. Hello, September, and hello, holiday weekend. We see you. It's hard to see anything through the haze outside right now, and even with the haze, with sunshine, we managed 87, a seasonal high today. And we're tracking some isolated thunderstorms with wind and lightning, and of course the remnants now post-tropical storm Harvey. A week ago today, it was about to make landfall in the Gulf, and this is a storm still creating issues across 6 states tonight. Our state will enjoy the influence of high pressure, a warming and drying trend timed well for the holiday weekend. We have a couple of storms tonight and then warm, dry weather conditions expected for Saturday, Sunday, and most of the holiday on Monday. And it doesn't look like wind's going to be much of a player for us as well. So tonight's low at 58, hazy and windy early, and then skies will clear out. The winds will lay down. Tomorrow's high at 90. I think Sunday looks to be the warmer of the 2 days there, with record highs in the mid-90s. Sharp cold front comes in Monday night into Tuesday, bringing a big cool down and a chance for showers and thunderstorms, and signs of early fall in the Colorado high country. Beautiful shots coming in tonight on the digital network.
Kathy, thanks. Hurricane Harvey made landfall in Texas 1 week ago. Since then, thousands of people have been rescued from floodwaters. Homes have been destroyed. More than 30 people were killed. The images of destruction and of perseverance persist.
The thing predictable about the storm is that it's unpredictable.
Forecasters caution Harvey brings with it the potential for more mass devastation, including widespread flooding.
We are going to be dealing with immense, really record-setting flooding.
Both shelters set up for people are full.
A whole bunch of people chose to leave yesterday. This is just the beginning, though, of what is likely to be much, much worse.
Those of you who have boats and high water vehicles that can be used in neighborhoods to help move people out of harm's way, we need your help.
We are still involved in the search and rescue process.
This is a landmark event. We have not seen an event like this.
We couldn't find him, and once our dive team got there, it was too treacherous to go under and look for him. So.
This is a storm of historic proportions, not just to the city of Houston, but the people that are in the area.
We're just going to stay with the people of Texas all the way through, not just the weeks and months, but very likely the years that it will take for us to rebuild.
Denver's trend of changing how people use public spaces now extends to dogs.
I had walked Aubrey along here, but I had never left her off leash.
We recommend checking out 2 small towns that are in the dark on purpose. And we find something that Buffs and Rams fans can agree on. Your good news. Next. City of Denver could have handed out stacks of off-leash dog tickets at Spear Boulevard Park, but instead, the city will try turning the park into an off-leash area. Just make it legal to do what everybody was doing anyway. Our Eddie Randall stopped by for the first day.
Seems like all they needed to do was to put some simple fencing and a gate down here, and voila, we have a wonderful amenity now.
What was once a space not used or misused is now a place where these pups can run free.
We are so delighted to have this space for our dogs.
Alice Gilbertson has been waiting for something like this.
I had walked Aubrey along here, but I had never left her off leash.
The city says other people were letting their dogs off leash, which is against the law. So they saw this as an opportunity to change things up. with a pop-up park.
Let's face it, dogs can trash out grass, and to then be moving the parks around so that those areas can restore themselves is really very smart.
The city hopes people will be responsive to this pop-up, and it will ultimately attract more people to the area.
The more people you have using these places, the safer they become and the more attractive these areas become for even families to relocate to.
For now, it's only temporary. The city will look to see how people respond to the area before making any permanent decisions. But if people keep it clean, who knows? We could see similar ideas in other areas.
We'll be down here every day using it. I know Aubrey is so happy to be off leash and running around on grass. So yeah, we'll keep our fingers crossed that this is a success and we can continue to come here.
For Next, I'm Eddie Randall.
That dog is like a model. That's like an abnormally beautiful dog, was it not? Pop-up dog park is scheduled to be open through December. City says it didn't cost much since it was already their land and the city just repurposed some old fencing. May I make a recommendation, point you towards something that didn't come from us, but we highly recommend. Take a virtual trip, then a real-life trip to Westcliff and Silvercliff, Colorado. We profiled their dark idea on 9 News years back. A great big story is now telling people across America about those tiny towns in southern Colorado that have embraced the dark of night so that people can see the stars like nowhere else. A decade-long process to convince typically individualistic Coloradans to band together and reduce light pollution. There's a link to Great Big Stories video, Where Dark Skies Rule, on the next Facebook page. Rivals come together to provide your good news this week. I learn I apparently have a look-alike, and you settle America's most pressing debate, crunchy versus creamy peanut butter. Next. Friday features your good news, as told to our photojournalist Tom Cole in downtown Denver, where for tonight's Rocky Mountain Showdown, the Rams and the Buffaloes roam.
My good news is I got a job offer yesterday.
My good news is I got an A in my paper last week. Let's go! Wait, yeah!
My good news is that my neighbor's best friend, her neighborhood are collecting cat and dog food for all the dogs and cats that are affected by the floods in Houston.
I got to talk to my family recently after years apart, so some good news.
My good news for the week is that 3 of my teachers let me skip class to come to the showdown early. We're here to cheer on the Buffs.
Just got this wig. It's looking great.
Well, our good news is CU is going to beat CSU, and it's a wonderful day in Colorado. I mean, just look at this. It doesn't get any better than this.
This is really good news because these are all Buff fans. Go Buffs. We're going to beat the Rams today.
I said I'm proud to beat a CSU Ram. I said I'm proud.
My good news is win or lose, it's a beautiful day.
Finally tonight, a shout out to all the Next viewers going back to school. Seriously, try to make this a show families can watch together, and they do, all ages. Like Lachlan, just started first grade in Littleton. His mom sent us these photos, saying Lachlan was channeling his inner Kyle Clark. Takes a brave young man to go to school looking that good. Lachlan's mom says he's up for co-hosting Next sometime. I may be channeling my inner Lachlan as opposed to him channeling my inner me. I also kind of look like a courtroom extra in To Kill a Mockingbird, I think. That's not really good. Feedback real quick tonight. Somebody writes in, why aren't the young adults in DACA applying for citizenship if they've been in the country for so long? We have to be 18 to apply for citizenship, so many of them would have just become eligible. And Carrie Leary, producer extraordinaire, what did the people choose? Creamy or crunchy peanut butter? It's America's great debate. It's a tie? I ask you people to settle one thing for me. You can't even do that. She says crunchy by a nose. I think it's just because she likes crunchy peanut butter. You don't trust these TV polls anyway. They're all bunk. See you next time.